What a great thing, to have this silence. Thank you so much for being all these 3 days with us and making this 13th edition of the Global Baku Forum a great success. And that's what NGIC, Nizami Ganjab International Center, and Global Baku Forum is important, that when there is a wars and there is difficulties and conflicts in the world, that NGIC is still keeping its own events activities and discussing about the solutions of the problems. With that, we have a number of our speakers that we are really grateful to each of you, and especially a number of our guests that we will request them to give their remarks. And the first is Madam Tatiana Valovaya, our long-standing partner for over the years, and which is hosting always every January in Nizami Ganjab International Center at the UN Geneva office. Madam Tatiana.
Thank you very much. Ravshan, you might regret giving me the floor, because I want to start with a critical observation. Not a criticism, but observation. You know, when we started the forum, many of us ladies noticed that in certain panels, which were devoted to global security on the first day, or today, for example, changes international system, we had only male speakers. And this is in the room which is full of outstanding professional female leaders. And I really hope that one of the observations I bring from this event, how important it is to bring women around the table when we discuss multilateral system. Hopefully, the future Secretary General of the United Nations. That's our desire within the organization, and we hope that it's shared by the community. But taking this criticism and jokes aside, thank you very much, Ravshan, your team, all the organizers of this fantastic event. These 3 days were inspiring and very, very important, because in the time of crisis, in the time of unpredictability and uncertainty, to have a space like that, to exchange the ideas, to inspire each other, is really very, very important. And thank you for that. A couple of observations on what I've heard and took from these 3 days in Baku. One is an importance really to understand that the world is changing. And when we are talking about changing of the multilateral order, we are changing the order because the world is changing, and the order has changed with it. But the other issue is, I think, also very, very important. When we speak about multilateral order, we always refer to 1945 as the year when the current international order was established. But what's interesting, and for me it was the first that I realized it listening to all of you, the order which was established in 1945 and the United Nations Charter did not reflect the realities of 1945. United Nations Charter and its values and principles are the document which was written for future generations. That was written exactly for the 21st century, because it did not reflect the world which was there. But it was a very ambitious and visionary document where all the countries are equal and all the voices are equal. Of course, UN Charter did reflect the realities of the past, reflected the role of permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, their special world at that time, because behind every member was a large group of countries, large geopolitical sphere. The world has changed since then, and we really have to change many things we have now as principles of the international multilateral order. But the values and the principles of the Charter were written for the future. The second observation I bring from these 3 days of discussion, that everything what we are discussing, the changes in the Security Council, certain contradictions between principles, for example, of non-interference in the internal affairs of other states and the necessity to preserve and defend universal human rights, or between territorial integrity and states, and at the same time the right of the nations to self-determination, all these issues we already know about them. And we have, for example, such a document as a Pact of the Future, which is really something upon which all the member states agreed 2 years ago. So we really have to implement. We shouldn't be distracted by the current situation. We should be resilient. We should strengthen the multilateral order, not going forward exactly in order to start building from the scratch, but going forward on the basis of what we have now. And for this realization and for the support or the strengthening of the multilateral system, I am very grateful to everybody who participated in these discussions. And I really hope that there will be continuation of these discussions next year in Geneva and then again in Baku. Thank you.
I sincerely apologizes for these mistakes, but definitely we have to take it into consideration. Before going to our second speaker, if I may ask everyone to applaud the biggest delegations that we do have. It's from the Republic of Latvia. As always, we are so proud and so happy that under auspices of Madam President, we have the biggest delegation always coming. With that, I would like to ask Madam Rebeca Grynspan, Secretary General of the UNCTAD.
Thank you. Thank you, Rovshan, very much. Thank you for these wonderful 3 days. I will be direct because we don't have much time. Tomorrow, I will refer to the UN, to the reform of the UN, and what are my thoughts with respect to that. But since we are in one of the most dangerous periods since the founding of the United Nations, where, as I said in the inauguration, armed conflicts are at their highest since 1945. And now, a vital maritime passage has been shut down. Escalation in the Middle East is accelerating towards an unknown destination. Today, let me say that I enjoy immensely the panel on the Middle East. Thank you for all the panelists for giving us their thoughts. So, in the middle of this, there is growing sense that dialogue has failed. I understand the frustration, but dialogue has not failed. It has been defeated by one of the most important and overlooked forces in our world, what I call the trust deficit. Let me be specific. Distrust is not a mood or a feeling. It is a mechanism. When parties do not trust each other, they cannot tolerate ambiguity. They demand guarantees that are verifiable, irreversible, complete, before they will take a single step. But that requires the other side to make itself vulnerable first. And that is precisely what a distrustful party will never do. So both sides wait. Both prepare for the worst. Both interpret every signal through the darkest possible lens. A pause in fighting looks like regrouping. An offer looks like a trap. And time does its work. Every day, without dialogue, deepens all ambiguities. The space for peace shrinks precisely when peace is more needed. This is where the United Nations must operate, not as the most powerful actor, itself seldom is, but as the one that keeps a way out available when every door appears shut. Yesterday, we heard about the Cuban Missile Crisis. In October 1962, we were asked the relationship between Kennedy and Khrushchev. Both knew where the path led. But yesterday, we didn't talk about the work that the United Nations did in the Cuban crisis. I missed that. U Tant, the Secretary General, proposed a voluntary pause, modest, quiet, solving nothing in itself. But it gave both leaders a door that did not have the other's name on it. An off-ramp, not a solution, a space in which a solution could emerge. That is the UN's irreplaceable function. To propose what no party can propose itself. To absorb the cost of rejection. To put forward 10 ideas that fall and come back with an 11th one. No government can afford to be rejected 10 times in public. The UN can. And above all, to ensure that there is always a way out. This is why the UN is so important. This is why in the Strait of Hormuz, we need the UN again now. Thank you.
Now, I would like to ask Dr. Kailash Satyarthi, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate.
In the darkest nights, most people become accustomed to live in or curse for the darkness. There are few people who have courage and wisdom to become candle themselves and lit it. And that candle of hope can spread the light. And one single candle has the power to dispel the darkness, whatever intense and deep it is. Dear friends, sisters and brothers, you are those people in that category who emerge to become candle and lighting it and bringing light to the world. So I would like to thank and congratulate all the friends in NGIC, its leadership, Sister Vaira, Brother Ismail, Brother Roshan, and all those who have been supporting them and working with them. Shouldn't we give a big round of applause to them? Friends, when we talk of darkness, it's fear. It's a lack of courage. It's uncertainty surrounding us. And why it is happening? Because we have, for a long time, We have allowed power to define truth. We have allowed profit to define values and fear to define belonging. And we have reached to a situation where we are not able to solve any complex problem. What a paradox that the solutions we are trying to find, they are giving birth to new complex problems. And this vicious circle goes on and on and on. Every crisis cries for an urgent and new way to solve the problems. And that is not possible through words. It is possible only through action. And I have been saying that something, the most important, which is missing, is compassion. We are all born with two divine gifts: consciousness, which is the fuel of our life, and compassion, which is the fuel or energy which brings us together. And that second one is lost. All the religions in the world, and all the revolutions, and all the social transformations were born out of this power of compassion. So compassion is not a value or a virtue. It is not a soft emotion or a feeling like kindness, mercy, pity, benevolence, etc. I have redefined it, compassion, as a force which is born from feeling the suffering of others as your own, that drives to take mindful action. So compassion is action. Compassion is power. Compassion is responsibility. Compassion is a moral sense of accountability. And in religions and revolutions and social transformation efforts and institutions, this spark of compassion is lost. It is not our choice. Compassion is no more a choice. It is a necessity if we have to keep this world and this planet safe and thrive. The universal spark of compassion enables us to look into the eyes of suffering and say, hey, I am there to solve, I will solve it. That power can be enabled through compassion. We have to work for a compassionate world. We live in the world of aggression. The aggression in all walks of life. Aggressive diplomacy, aggressive politics, aggressive economies, aggressive religions, and they are dividing the world. And that aggression can be addressed through this approach of compassion. As I said, as a force, as an action. We have to work for compassionate politics. Without this soul of compassion, the parliament houses may turn into the clubs of power mongers. Without compassion, the businesses will become the engines of loot and exploitation and just uncontrolled profit. Without compassion, the hospitals and schools and courts of justices will become commercial institutions or the dead bodies. Therefore, dear friends, we have to rethink. As I said, we have unlimited compassion inside us as we have unlimited consciousness. It is up to us that how we are going to use it and make it practical. Friends, we have globalized markets, economies. We have globalized data. We have globalized even indifference and fear and apathy and inaction. We have globalized words, hollow words and hollow promises. You can listen the echo of these promises everywhere in the world. But are they going to solve the problems? No. This is the time. This is the time and this is the place. And today, we have to go back with a sense of moral responsibility and moral accountability. Let us ignite the inherent, innate compassion inside each one of us. We have to globalize compassion. This is the time to ignite compassion. That is the time to enlarge the circles of compassion. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit to your biological children and husbands and wife and sometimes close friends and family circles. If the God has given us compassion, the power of compassion, he cannot or she cannot be so meager to give us in a handful compassion. We have the ocean of it. Let us globalize it. Let us globalize it. I appeal you that without it, without the awareness, connectedness, feeling, and action that makes compassion, all these four elements, we are unable to make changes which are needed today as a sense of urgency. We can do it. We will do it. As I said, humans have enormous potential to move from darkness to light. And if you don't do, who will do? This is the place. I have been listening for last 2-3 days and I have come here several times, 2-3 times before. And I'm confident. And therefore, I refuse to accept that if this gathering of Baku Forum is unable to solve the global problems with a sense of urgency, with a sense of moral responsibility, we cannot simply complain to others that they are not solving the problem. Somebody is sitting in Washington, D.C., and somebody is sitting in another part of the world. We have no moral authority to say this. And that's why I call upon your conscience. I call upon your compassion. I call upon your inner power. I call upon your soul. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kailash. I think that today what the world is needing is a woman leadership. They are the most decent and qualified who are running on time on everything. And that's why hopefully more UN agencies, international organizations will be led by the UN, by our women leaders. I would like to just to praise our leaders, like, who are here. Miss Espinosa, Patricia Scotland, Eka Tsekalashvili, Jean, Nigar, Madame Kvinemi, Milicia, Rodi Kratza, our beloved Benita Ferrero, Anna Bichel, Hamida, Prime Minister Laimidota, Tsipi Livni, who was online with us, Madame Burjanadze, Miss Alasania, Colinda, and Silvana Koch-Merin, and all of you. Thank you so much for being us. And by the way, as you saw, we have in our board, NGIC board, we have more women than men. In our secretariat, almost 85% is women, and the rest is men. And today's speakers are like, more women than the gentlemen. With that, I would like to ask Madam Tulia Ackson, President of the Inter-Parliamentary Union.
Dear friends, this edition of the Baku Forum has come to an end. And it has been, as it always is, a pleasure to contribute to these meaningful and timely discussions. As we draw these conclusions today, I would like to share my own conclusions. In the past few months, we have witnessed how the international order has been ruptured. We have seen this in the persistent erosion in both words and actions of common norms, or rather, what we considered common. The weakening of the multilateral institutions, or the growing reliance on the use of force and unilateral actions. Not far away from here, the ongoing war in Iran is an example of this. Azerbaijan, our very gracious host, these days has suffered the impact of this war just next door, of this military action. But I would like to commend, but also use this opportunity to congratulate our host, Azerbaijan. While we stand with you in solidarity, we are very grateful that you still said Baku Forum will take place. I want to praise your determination to host this forum. Why? Because as we meet here today, this sends a powerful message to those who are listening. The power of words, of engagement, brings forward a deeply rooted conviction that dialogue is necessary, and certainly more now than ever, especially when many nations are turning inwards. Dear colleagues, dear friends, history has taught us that whenever there is a crisis, there is also an opportunity to harvest. If there is anything that 2026 has already taught us, is that unilateral action does not achieve common good. The cost of unilateral actions is much higher than its benefits, and that one country alone, in pursuit of its own interests, can impact negatively the interests of the majority. To begin with, dear friends, it is in no one's interest to live in a more unstable and dangerous world. And when one sees what is going on today, what I find more frustrating is that we know that there is another way of doing things, founded on the notion that common problems require common solutions for all and with all. At this moment of unprecedented challenge, colleagues, friends, we cannot shy away. We cannot simply accept that international order is gone or is weakening. Together, we need to rebuild the eroded legitimacy of multilateral order and institutions. And we need to reconstruct the trust between the multilateral institutions and the public. Because without trust, we all know there is no legitimacy. Without legitimacy, there is no cooperation. And without cooperation, there is no stability. In this noble endeavor, colleagues and friends, parliaments have a critical role to play through legislation, oversight, budgetary authority, and public debate. Parliamentarians give substance to international commitments and ensure that power, be it national or global, remains anchored in the consent of the governed, not the other way around. Without the involvement of parliaments, global governance risks becoming detached from societies it claims to serve. This is no news. The Pact for the Future, adopted by the United Nations in September 2024, calls for a deepening parliamentary engagement in the United Nations processes and the implementation of the United Nations agreements, because they have to be domesticated in our respective countries. And that work is done by parliaments alone. It recognizes the that legitimacy cannot be rebuilt from top down. It must be grounded in democratic institutions that citizens trust. Dear colleagues, dear friends, it is up to us. Some of us here are parliamentarians. Some of us are not, but they are leaders in their respective institutions. And some of us here are public officials. And as leaders, we have to work together to demonstrate that multilateralism is not an elite project, but it is a framework, a way of doing things that serves the common good of the societies that parliamentarians represent, and some of us here are. In other words, dear colleagues, we must demonstrate that cooperation is not just an abstraction, void of any practical meaning, but a means, a path to a safer, more predictable world, and that benefits all of us. And this is the idea I want to leave you with today. In this extremely challenging time and unprecedented context, the direction the world is heading into will greatly depend on the decisions that we make together. We need to ensure that these decisions are rooted in representation, in democracy. Every voice must be heard. Every voice must count. We must make sure that the world we will leave for future generations is faithful to their dreams and aspirations. This is why, dear colleagues, dear friends, and everyone gathered here today, I want to finish by stressing once again the value of parliamentary diplomacy as the instrument that best serves that purpose. It is how we ensure that cooperation is not detached from society, that multilateralism is not perceived as distant or technocratic, and that global governance remains anchored in legitimacy. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I would like to invite all of you to rise to the occasion. It can be done. Play your part. I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Madam President. Definitely, there is an importance of the strong leadership, and we are grateful to the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan for all the support that he was providing all these 13 years to the existence and strengthening of the institution as an Islamic Geneva International Center. And thanks to also, as you were mentioning, during these difficult times, for the leadership of Madam President Vaira, Vike-Freiberga, and Dr. Ismail Serageldin, that we managed to make this Baku Forum to happen. But one more comment, just because every longer speech, it takes us longer time from our dinner. And also, we are so happy with Ms. Nigar that we are started the COP29 presidency and the high-level champion, with, which is torching to Turkey. And we are also important, which is one of the important countries in the region under the leadership of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And that's why we believe that our partnership with the COP31, it will be a crucial partnership. And we are happy that our friend Samet Agirbas, high-level champion, is here, who will give his remarks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thanks to dear organizers. As we move towards COP31 in Antalya, Turkey, we note that climate change already happening around the world. We see strong storms, more extreme weather, and water shortages that affect millions of the people. In many places, climate change is also making food problems worse and affecting vulnerable communities. After the successful COP29 in Baku and COP30 in Belém, we are now entering a new phase. The focus is not only on promises, but also on action and real results. As the climate high-level champion for COP31, my role is bring together governments, cities, business, investors, and civil society to work on practical climate solutions that we can implement now. Our goal for COP31 is to turn existing commitments into the real action. In the coming months, we will organize consultation and dialogue in 7 regions of the world. The consultation will bring together governments, business, cities, and civil societies to listen, share ideas, and identify solutions that can be applied globally. One of our key priorities is zero waste. In Turkey, the zero waste movement, led by Her Excellency Emine Erdoğan, has grown into the global initiative that promotes responsibility consumption, efficient use of resource, and circular economy solutions. This vision has also become United Nations International Day of Zero Waste, which shows that reducing waste and climate action must together. Zero waste is not only about managing waste, it is about changing how we produce, consume, and use resources. It helps us protect nature, reduce emission, and build stronger economies. Another important focus is food system, especially reducing food loss and food waste. Today, about 1/3 of all produced in the world is lost or wasted. This affects food security, the economy, and climate. When food is wasted and goes to landfill, it produces methane, a strong greenhouse gas. Water is also becoming one of the biggest challenges of our time. Improving how we use and manage water will be very important for climate resilience and sustainable development. I thank the President of the Azerbaijan, His Excellency Mr. İlham Aliyev, for his leadership and the people for their hospitality and successfully hosting COP29. The friendship and brotherhood between Turkey and Azerbaijan continue to inspire us. I would like to thank Nigar Arpadai, the COP29 climate high-level champion, for her leadership and dedication. The Global Baku Forum has become an important platform for dialogue and cooperation, which the world needs today. Before I conclude, I would like to invite you the Global Zero Waste Forum in Istanbul, organized by Zero Waste Foundation. from June 5 to 7. This event will bring together city leaders, innovators, policymakers, civil society, and sustainability experts to share ideas, build partnership, and promote zero-waste solution. The road to COP31 starts now, and I look forward to working together with all of you on this journey. Thank you so much.
I hope that it will be a base for the mutual memorandum of understanding between COP31 and NGIC and Zero Waste Foundation and NGIC. Without delaying, because I know everyone is waiting for the dinner, we have our special friend and partner is Dr. Chau, Chak, who couldn't be able because of his flight issues to join, but he sent his video message.
尊敬的霍莱贝加主席、沙拉戈丁主席、各位嘉宾、朋友们，晚上好。首先，我要向全体与会嘉宾表示衷心的感谢，向霍莱贝加主席、沙拉戈丁主席的卓越领导致以崇高的敬意，向秘书长及其团队的高效工作表示赞赏。这次论坛以如何转型世界中的风气为主题，既有重要的现实意义和深远的历史意义。当前百年变局加速演进，极富战争和跨境冲突不断发生，和平与发展面临严峻考验。经济全球化遭遇严重冲击，在这关键时刻，各国要同舟共济，携手应对。我们欣慰地看到团结的力量、合作的声音，也在不断凝聚全球巴库论坛。正在成为越来越重要的交流平台，影响力越来越大。希望各界的有识人诸士以巴库论坛为平台，交流思想，凝聚共识，提出更多有价值、可实施的思路和方案。2025年，中国、阿塞拜疆签署建立全面战略伙伴关系的联合声明，为双边关系发展注入了新动能，也为我们与尼加米中心的合作开拓了新空间。2026年是中国的农历马年，让我们发扬一马当先的精神，汇集万马奔腾的合力，推动民间交往，文明福建，共享美好的未来。欢迎大家多到广州、成都走一走，看一看，畅谈友谊，合作共赢。谢谢各位。
Dr. Ismail, our co-chair, and we...
Thank you, dear friends. Great poets have expressed themselves beautifully at various times. I recall the famous poem of the Second Coming, when Yeats said things fall apart and that the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passion and hate and breakdown. But yet we can and must rebuild, for we cannot let the things stand as they are. We are here under the Global Baku Forum for the 13th time. It is the NGIC, which stands for Nizami Ganjabi International Center. And Nizami, the poet of Azerbaijan, really spoke eloquently in the 12th century already, telling us to remain open to all the cultures of the world, for each has pearls to be learned, to have the humility in approaching others and learning from them through dialogue and understanding. And he said about times like these, not to worry, for the darkest clouds will bring the crystal rain afterwards. And so we have met in the spirit of Nizami 800 years later, and filled with the fire and committed to our dreams, we'll take up our tools and rebuild again after the rupture that the international order has just suffered. We will build the bridges that will bring the cultures together and remind ourselves that everything that we hold dear was once upon a time a minority position, whether we're talking about the divine right of kings or the right of the public to choose their own leaders, the rights of women, human rights, you name it, all of that at one point was a minority position. That discussion, openness, listening, debating gradually transformed into a consensus that we now take all for granted. And for me, I have to say that before I leave here, I want to express my deep thanks to each and every one of you for having been here with us, for having shared these debates, and we look forward, of course, that you will continue to share it with us. And yes, of course, we also must remember that it is due to His Excellency Ilham Aliyev that Azerbaijan is an island of peace and stability in an era around us, wars on this side, wars on that side. And for us more narrowly here in NGIC, I want to express a very special thanks to our dear friend Hekmat Hajiev, who I was hoping to be here, but whose duties call him elsewhere right now. I want to thank each and every one of you, and I say, as we depart, and we take much food for thought from our discussions. Old friendships have been renewed, new friendships have been born, and are bound to blossom in the future. And I will leave you with something that captures the spirit of what we said of building bridges. For me, that is my credo. And I say that the world is my home and the humanity is my family. Nonviolence is my creed. Peace, justice, equality, and dignity for all is my purpose. And my tools are engagement, openness, tolerance, dialogue, and learning and understanding. And here we are, we welcome all those who share these ideas, and we'll carry that as we go forward to try to build a better future. Thank you each and everyone for having been here. Thanks to all those who organized things, and thanks to our friends and of course our hosts, the President of Azerbaijan.
As Prime Minister Zlatko always is saying, thank you, our double L, Las Leonardo, for extraordinary speech. I'm really each time when I have an honor to introduce our co-chair, Madam President Vaira Vike-Freiberga, I can't find any words how much grateful we are, because she is an inspiration. She makes us to be strong, and her stance and her beliefs, which is impossible to compare with anything. And we are admiring every single staff member, and I'm sure that all of our members, that our most adorable and one and only co-chair, Madam President Vaira Vike-Freiberga.
Dear friends, colleagues, and distinguished participants in this 13th Baku Forum, I'd like to join my voice to the chorus of those thanking you for having braved the insecure skies and the dangerous tensions existing in the world to come to Baku and to be here in person, to be seen, to be heard, to see, and to listen. We have been exchanging precious and important reflections about the failures of the world since the creation of the United Nations and the prospects and the steps needed for the revitalization of what is called multilateralism, by a word that I find very unpleasant. I don't think it expresses the idea of participation, of having a say in what happens in the world, whether you have great power, medium power, or that of a small country. And as we heard in one of the panels, small is a relative word. It's important to have an exchange face-to-face with living human beings. Our brains, of course, need sensory input and cognitive content in order to function just as much as they need glucose and oxygen. The human brain truly survives and develops and keeps functioning as long as it is able to receive information. But you can receive information through mechanical, electronic, paper, printed word, all sorts of ways. Information is something that reaches your brain and keeps it alive. But being face-to-face with other people, you are in what science is just beginning to recognize as within an energy field that each of us has surrounding us. And that energy field includes the emotions that we feel, not just in our brains, but also in our heart. Science has discovered that there are neurons, special neurons, surrounding the human heart. It is not just a pump for the blood flow, biologically, as we have been all taught in school and in university. It has its own intelligence. It has its own neuronal network. And I do believe that as scientific knowledge advances, we will have a better understanding of why it is so crucial in exchanging ideas to be standing face to face or have the possibility of being closer to each other, to feel our energetic fields, and to understand also the emotions that lie behind the intellectual content. The emotions are frequently disparaged as something that interferes with logic. But I think that, as Kailash has reminded us this evening, our dear friend and brother, awakening compassion in our hearts requires our hearts to be taken into consideration as well. This inheritance that we have is not just one for brutality, for violence, for suspicion, for paranoia, for manias of grandeur and manias of persecution, for malignant narcissism sitting in high office and creating havoc across the world. There's more than that. That is not all there is. And if you ever have any doubts that coming together and talking and exchanging ideas is a vacuous and idle pursuit, may I remind you that each and every one of you, as you are egged on and inspired by what you hear from others, you each have your own network. And just from the people present in this room, imagine the networks, the overlapping or non-overlapping networks that each of you has created throughout your life with all the people that you have ever met. You have influenced, willingly or unwittingly, all the people that you have ever met. And as you approach them with fresh energy and compassion, understanding, and sympathy in your heart, I believe that the effect that each one of you will have on your surroundings will add up to something that is more than the sum of its parts. And the equilibrium of evil and good in the world, which so often, and especially now, seems to be tilting towards aggression, brute power, stupidity, and imbecility, and evil intent, that equilibrium does need a counterforce. The counterforce is a people of goodwill, people like you. Godspeed on your way back to your network and to your areas and spheres of influence. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Madam President. You are always a true inspiration for all of us. Before we start the dinner, if everyone can applaud to the members of the Secretariat, Ilaha, Asim, Reza, Nahi, Emil, Sona, Nermin, Nazrin, everyone. Togrul, and to our amazing volunteers that they've been working and making sure everyone is safe. Definitely to our Anje, who is always making everything, the best videos, reports. Könül Hanım for all the decorations, and to all the staff members of the Four Seasons Hotel that they are always kindly helping us in support to this. And once more, thank you and enjoy your dinner.
baharı Sevgilim seyre çıxaq Burada gəlir baharı Dil atır qəlbimizin ən şirin arzuları Dil atır qəlbimizin ən şirin arzuları Onadır arzulara hər zaman Qarabağ Danışan dil dodağı tarçaman Qarabağ Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Anadır arzulara hər zaman Qarabağ Danışan dil dodağı tarçaman Qarabağ Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Bu çəmənlərdə gəzir Vaqifin şux gözəlim Bu çəmənlərdə gəzir Vaqifin şux gözəli Ruhunu buradan alır Natavanın qəzəli Ruhunu buradan alır Natavanın qəzəli Anadır arzulara hər zaman Qarabağ Danışan dil dodağı tarçaman Qarabağ Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Anadır arzulara hər zaman Qarabağ Danışan dil dodağı tarçaman Qarabağ Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Tarlalarında neçə qəhrəman övladı var Tarlalarında neçə qəhrəman övladı var Əməyi güllər açan xanları bünyadı var Əməyi güllər açan xanları bünyadı var Anadır arzulara hər zaman Qarabağ Danışan dil dodağı tarçaman Qarabağ Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Anadır arzulara hər zaman Qarabağ Danışan dil dodağı tarçaman Qarabağ Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Bu çəmənlərdə gəzir Vaqifin şux gözəli Şair bülbül kimi ilhamla yaşar Yürek sözlerini koş Qarabağda Şuşaya bir cənnətdir ağdan tamaşa Baxıb gözəliyə Danışan dil dodağı tarçaman Qarabağ Qarabağcan Qarabağ ana yurdum Anadır arzulara Dumanlı dağların başında durdum, dumandan özüme bir xeymə vurdum. Dumanlı dağların başında durdum, dumandan özüme bir xeymə qurdum. Keçdi xəyalımdan öz gözəl yurdum, dumanlar başında duman göründü, duman göründü. Keçdi xəyalımdan öz gözəl yurdum, dumanlar başında duman göründü, duman göründü. Xəzər dənizi təkeşkinlə coşdu, hülyalar içində sanki bir uçdu. Xəzər dənizi təkeşkinlə coşdu, hülyalar içində sanki bir uçdu. Vətən arzusuyla nəğmələr qoşdum, tufanlar qarşımda dastana döndü, dastana döndü. Vətən arzusuyla nəğmələr qoşdum, tufanlar qarşımda dastana döndü, dastana döndü. Könüller cəlb edən bu xoş mənzərə, şövqümü artırdı şeirə qəzələ. Könüller cəlb edən bu xoş mənzərə, şövqümü artırdı şeirə qəzələ. Çarpdıqca vətənin elm nəzərə, təbiətdə mənə heyran görünür, heyran görünür. Çarpdıqca vətənin elm nəzərə, təbiətdə mənə heyran görünür, heyran görünür. Deyirlər bülbülə çəmən yaxşıdır, insan üçün laləzar vətən yaxşıdır. Deyirlər bülbülə çəmən yaxşıdır, insan üçün laləzar vətən yaxşıdır. Vahid sorma nədən vətən yaxşıdır, adı gəlcə könlüm dastana döndü, dastana döndü. Vahid sorma nədən vətən yaxşıdır,